We are here at the conclusion of day 2 of the NCAA Indoor Track and Field Championships. And guys, it went out with a bang. Today was a fantastic day of track and field action, and we saw 2 new team champions crowned, the Oregon women and the USC men. Let's start with that women's slate of events. So how did Oregon claim the team title? They started off last night, the big 8 points of that second place finish in the DMR. Today, they got 16 from Jaden Mays in the 60 and the 200, and they got 8 from Jada Ross in the shot. For both of those ladies, it's their last meet as a Duck, and they showed out, scoring 24 of Oregon's 55 points. For Jada Mays, she ran a PB in the 200, season's best in the 60, and Jada Ross hit the big season's best in round 6, 1898, to finish second in the women's shot put. Then you get to the mile, they picked up a lot of points there. Wilma Nielsen, her first season as a Duck, wins the NCAA Indoor Mile title. It was a great race, and then Shalon Ayildiz finished 4th in that one. They picked up 15 points in the mile. And then they had Aaliyah McCormick pick up another second in the hurdles. And so they finished with 5 second place finishes, only had 1 individual champion. But all those 5 second place finishes added up to a big first place finish for the Ducks. Second was Georgia with 39 points, and then USC, the ladies of USC, finished 3rd with 35 points. There were some other big events today that didn't necessarily have the biggest implications in the team titles. Let's start with a crazy women's 800 meter race where UNC's Michaela Page, just an unbelievable run from her, goes straight to the front. She was leading at every single lap, but coming through 400, right at the end of that second lap, she gets tripped up from the front of the pack, stumbles, stays on her feet somehow, stays at the front of one of the fastest 800 meter collegiate fields ever, and then goes on to win the race in a PB, I believe it was, a little over 2 flat. Victoria Basong of Harvard finishes second, and it's just deciding to front run a whole 800 against a field of that quality is just such a gutsy move, and it paid off in spades for Michaela Page of UNC. In the 200, India Mayberry did something no one in college has done before. They took down Jamesia Ford in indoor 200 meters. For Mayberry, a freshman, after a strong showing in the 60, she comes back and finishes 1st in the 200, takes home 10 points for TCU in a time of 22:30. Jamesia Ford finished 3rd behind Jaden Mays, who finished 2nd out of Heat 1. In the women's high jump, you had a tie at the top of the podium between Georgia's Elena Kulichenko and Texas Tech's Temitope Adeshina. They both equaled at 194. Rachel Glenn of Arkansas finished 3rd at 191. And then you get to, there were maybe some more competitive races, maybe more entertaining races themselves, but the performance of the meet on the women's side simply has to go to Arkansas's Isabella Whitaker in the 400. In Heat 1, it's a darn shame we didn't get her and Aaliyah Butler in the same heat again. But in Heat 1, Isabella Whitaker goes 49-24. The only woman in world history faster than her indoors is someone by the name of Femke Bol. That is just, she shattered Britton Wilson's previous collegiate record. That transfer from her for Bella Whitaker from Penn down to Arkansas is paying off in spades. Aaliyah Butler dipped under 50 again. She ran 49.97, but that's only good enough for 2nd in the NCAA this year, because that is the quality of women's 400 meter runners we have in college right now. And then in the women's 3K, the final distance event, it was just as good as the DMR and the 5K and the mile and the 800 before it, where Kaylee McCabe of West Virginia holds off Doris Lemongole, which is something not a lot of people are capable of doing. But Kaylee McCabe held off Doris Lemongole all the way around that final 200 meters, wins in 9:01. I believe ended up being about a half a second gap between the two. And it was just a phenomenal day. Axelina Johansson of Nebraska took the win in the shot put, backing up her outdoor title from 2 summers ago. And it was just a great day of women's track and field, and it caps off with Oregon winning the team title. So congratulations to Coach Jerry Schumacher and all the ladies of Oregon. The men's side, there's a little bit of drama to it, if you guys aren't aware already. First, we'll start with the end result. USC wins the men's team title. It's their first time winning the men's indoor title in over 50 years, Coach Quincy Watts gets his first team title as head coach of the Trojans. They won with 39 points, so the scoring amongst the teams, it was a little more even than we saw in the women's race, and it did come down to that 4x4, and that 4x4 was really something. So Georgia ends up winning it out of Heat 2, so congratulations to the Bulldogs. Going into the 4x4, USC was at 34 points, Arkansas was at 30. Auburn was at 32, but they didn't have a 4x4, so they were already out of team contention. So you had a situation where USC needed to beat Arkansas by at least 4 points. Arkansas came in with the 5th seeded 4x4, I believe, in the nation, and USC was 7. And then you get to that final heat, and it's USC, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Florida. And the first leg, there's some chaos at the cones where it looks like Ahmad Robinson, who is running leadoff for Texas A&M, he cuts in, and Arkansas's leadoff leg gets a little caught up, kind of sandwiched in between Robinson and USC's leadoff. He has to step off the track. And then Arkansas, from there, they kind of just jog it in. And so they ended up a lap behind everyone. There was some chaos with the officials holding back the anchor legs for USC and Florida as they were trying to get the handoff. So there were 3 total protests in this 4x4. 2 of them came from Arkansas, 1 of them came from Texas A&M. Ultimately, Arkansas was really pushing for a rerun. This went on for like an hour. We didn't really know what was going to happen. The final decision was Texas A&M gets DQ'd. And then, other than that, no dice for Arkansas. They don't get the rerun. They finish 11th, because like I said, they pretty much just jogged in the last like 1,500 total meters of this, or 1,400 total meters of the race. So Arkansas ends up finishing 11th. USC only finished 4th in the 4x4, but with Arkansas not scoring, that meant the Trojans wrapped up the team title with 39 points. They also picked up some points from Johnny Brackens, who finished 4th in the 60, and he also finished 8th in the long jump and got a point there. Talked a little bit last night about how long jump didn't necessarily go the Trojans' way, because Johnny Brackens finished 8th, J.C. Stevenson finished 6th, so they only picked up 4 points there. But they got the day started with 6 crucial points in high jump out of Elias Gerald and Brady Palin. They finished, I think it was tied for 5th in like a 3-way tie, so they got 3 points each. The high jump competition was dominated by Nebraska's CITIUS Wilson, who was the only man on the day to clear 220, and he cleared 228. So they got a crucial 6 points from the high jump that Coach Quincy Watts was very excited about in his post-shoot interview. And then in the 200, Johnny Blockberger, more of a 400 guy outdoors, entered in the 200, picks up 3 crucial points, then Garrett Kalin picked up 5. And then in the 400, you had William Jones picking up 5 points, J.C. Stevenson and Travis Williams combined for a solid 7 points in the 60. And then finally, like I said, they got 5 from their 4x4. So a pretty spread out amongst all their sprints and relays event groups and jumps for USC. Some other interesting men's races, you had the men's mile where Abel Tefra of Georgetown took down Nathan Green. Nathan Green made a strong move with around 500 to go, but it just wasn't enough in the end as Tefra was able to close on him around that final bend. And then in the straightaway events, you had 2 very exciting finishes. These ones have been super close all year. They were really a toss-up when the gun went off. In the flat 60, it's Jordan Anthony of Arkansas, also a football player, who takes the win in 6:49. He won SECs, he wins NCAA Indoors, and in his post-race, he was emphatic about his FU mentality that you need to win in the NCAA. They're one of my favorite post-race interviews I've ever done. He's a very entertaining guy. He also advocated for more football players to run track, which I can always get behind. And then you put the barriers in and over the hurdles, it was Jacoby Tharp of Auburn, winning in 6:45, the fastest time ever by a teenager over the senior hurdles. And just what a run from this guy. He comes into the wall and he just slaps his hands down. It was probably the most emphatic celebration I've ever seen. He was hyped, and he deserves to be. He's ridiculous. He makes up for his kind of, runner-up finish at Outdoor Nationals last year in the 110 hurdles, and now he is officially an NCAA champion with an absurdly bright future ahead of him. In the 400, Will Floyd of Georgia, who really broke out at SEC, set a PB by, I was over half a second. He makes it into the final, and then he wins over Baylor's Nathaniel Ezekiel. That's honestly probably one of the bigger upsets of the meet. Ezekiel was closing hard, but Will Floyd is able to hold him off. It was 45-43 to 45-44. Around 400 meters, 1/100th of a second separated NCAA champion from NCAA runner-up. The 200 was as historic as we thought it was going to be, with the battle between Carly Makawaru and Maka Charamba. Carly takes the win in 2013 to Charamba's 2016, and Charamba just closes like a freight train all the time, but Carly was able to hold him off. He equals Charamba and a couple other guys as the 7th fastest performer in world history indoors. Very impressive run for them, and just what a way to continue to rep Zimbabwe on the collegiate stage. And then you've got the men's 3K, the rematch of that unbelievable anchor leg in the DMR last night. This time, Ethan Strand of UNC was able to turn the tables on Virginia's Gary Martin. It looked like Gary was going to play it out the same way it did last night, but then Ethan Strand closes this 3K in 25:39. He closed his last lap well under 26 seconds. Like that is pure speed. And he talked about in his post-race interview, the message from Coach Chris Miltenberg last night was that he went too early. He needs to be patient. He needs to be the last one to make the move. He was the last one tonight, and it paid off as he was able to take down his ACC rival. And I cannot wait to see what that matchup looks like outdoors. And it would not be a recap by yours truly if I didn't mention Tarek Robinson O'Hagan going back-to-back in the men's shot put. This was a great comp. You had Tarek won at 20:49, and then CJ Licata of South Carolina, who's probably the best glider in the world, I think. He finishes runner-up at 20:46. Then Jason Swarns of Wisconsin throws 20:40 and finishes in third. PBs for Licata and Swarns. But, so Tarek won with that 20:49. It was on his first throw of the competition. And so he said in the interview after, he was like, this was a bad competition. Like, I feel sorry for the fans because we should have given them something more entertaining. It was an interesting take on what the marks are really impressive, but I can definitely see what he's saying where there was no back and forth. Licata almost sniped him in the last round, but Tarek, of course, said if that were the case, he would have had something to answer back with. Tarek is also a very entertaining interview. You guys should go watch that on the CITIUS Mag YouTube channel as soon as you're done finishing up this recap. Guys, these 2 days of track and field were insane. The environment here inside the Virginia Beach Sports Center was absolutely unbelievable for every single race, every event. The triple jump, oh man, Jonathan Suremis of Mizzou won the men's triple jump today, cleared 17 for the first time in his life. The crowd pop when that jump happened was unbelievable. Indoor track and field is amazing. I'm from Florida. I've been to 3 indoor track meets in my life. The first 2, basically nothing burgers compared to this one. Indoor track is legit, and it is so much fun. And it's so loud, makes it kind of hard for interviewing sometimes, but that's a price I'm willing to pay. What a meet. If this doesn't get you excited for outdoors, I don't know what's wrong with you. But, don't just immediately look ahead to outdoors. Appreciate this meet for what it was. And that's one of the best track meets we're going to see all year long. So that's it for CITIUS Mag from the 2025 NCAA Indoor Championships. Thank you for following along with us on social media. We've got tons of interviews on the YouTube channel, and I'm sure we'll have some podcast episodes coming out in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned for those.